Hi, everyone. Welcome back to It's All Light. I'm your host, Natalie Baugh, and you're listening to Natalie with Amy tonight. This is Amy Ward, everyone.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Natalie.
So, I think my first memory of Amy was volunteering for Ragnar at like
Oh,
2
yes.
in the morning with my cousin McCall, one of Amy's like best friends. And that's
Uh-huh.
where I first met you, and we had a
That
party.
was me, what, 8 years ago?
Something like that.
10 years ago? Yeah, I
Yeah,
had almost forgotten about
crazy.
that. I probably tried to purposely push that out of my mind.
Well, I just remember we were so tired and we just had to volunteer call in people running Ragnar in the middle of the night. But we did
And the
it.
middle nowhere. We
And
had to drive up to, what was it, Mona or something?
oh,
That's not
yeah.
for the people who live there. It's not the middle of nowhere for them, but
Yeah, we were
it
in the middle of nowhere.
uh-huh.
But Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I consider myself um, raised, living probably forever. I will probably be here forever in East Mill Creek, Utah, um, suburb of Salt Lake City. But I don't say born and raised because I was born in Japan, in Tokyo,
Wow.
Japan. And I always forget that. But yeah, I was born in Tokyo, Japan. No, I'm not Japanese. I'm not even a citizen of
Oh,
Japan.
really?
Yeah, no, they don't let you be a citizen unless you have direct, um,
Japanese
heritage,
descendant. Wow.
Japanese heritage. But I do have a crazy looking birth certificate.
Nice.
So I was born in Japan. My family lived there for my dad's work um, for like 7 years.
That's
And
amazing.
I was born there and I moved back here when I was almost 5. So unfortunately, I don't remember a ton, but it's in my deep, deep brain
Childhood
somewhere,
memories.
my brain somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where I was born, raised, suburb of Salt Lake, and because of that, um, I love being outside and I love nature. The mountains are just right
Yeah.
here.
So nice.
Uh, Escaping to Park City or the Uintas, or even going down to southern Utah, St. George and Lake Powell, and just the access to the outdoors has really shaped my life in a lot of ways. So I consider that a big part of me, just my love for being outside
Yeah.
and connecting with nature. And that's um, a pillar of my testimony. I think it just my connection with God has come a lot from me finding peace and solace in the outdoors.
I love that.
So yeah.
It really is our backyard. Like it's a 10-15 minute drive to the mountains. It's the best.
Yeah. My husband always makes fun of me actually when, you know, I think everyone has their little go to catchphrases or little stories that they have in their back pocket to bring up during just small talk with people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of mine is I always say, oh, yeah, the mountains are my backyard playground. And my husband always just rolls his eyes. That's so cheesy. But it really is.
It
It's
really
growing
is.
up, it still is. It's my
Yeah.
backyard playground. I love it. And I could be outside every day if it weren't for the heat and the freezing cold and the air quality. But
Yeah, true. That was bad the other week. Wait, so how long have you been married?
almost 7 years, almost
Wow.
7 years.
Love it.
Yeah, 2017, December 2017. Yeah,
Nice. And you have a baby girl.
baby girl who was born this past January, so she's 8 months old. Her
Wow.
name's Olivia. She's just she's just so sweet. Just so fun. We love her. It's been a whirlwind though.
Yeah.
Um,
What's been
just
like the biggest thing that you like maybe didn't expect as a new mom?
oh Um, well, I didn't expect the amount of work it would take to, well, okay, so maybe this is just specific to me. I can only speak from my experience. It has taken me a lot of work to try and connect with my daughter in a meaningful way. Like, I felt so connected with her when she was in the womb. Like, I just felt like I could uh, talk with her, and like I felt like obviously just like really connected with her in the womb, and then she was born, and it was there was just this instant separation where I was like, is this like the same girl? Is that, and just
Mm,
it's mind blowing. I mean,
interesting.
growing a baby and delivering a baby is just like the craziest thing.
It
And
really
for some
is.
reason, it took my mind a long time to make the connection, like this little human being in my arms was the same like little being that was inside me. And like now as she's growing and developing more of a personality, like I really have to put an effort to get to know her. And I think for her, she has an immediate attachment and love for me, so that comes easy to her.
I love that.
uh, but anyways, I mean, I loved her from the instant I saw her, but that really deep connection of like, this is my daughter and I am her mom, it's taken some work.
Or like what that means to you, because you get to build out what that looks like. I mean, obviously you're taking care of her and you're doing everything. Moms keep their children alive. They do everything for for their child and their children. And so I can only imagine just like that much more of being like wanting that, making sure it's that connection you want it to be.
Yes, yeah, and not just like the connection that I think it should be, right? Like the stereotypical what
Mm-hmm.
everyone thinks a mom should be, but like the thing that feels right for me and her. And it might look different
Yeah.
for all like the various children that I have, just with stages of life.
Oh, for
Because still,
sure.
I'm holding her in my arms, and sometimes I'm still thinking about like I would really like to go back to school, but then I have to remember, like, oh, I'm a mom. I'm a mom. Like, be present, be with her. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
mother, but also I have my own,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
don't just
life.
lose who you are when you become a mom. Yes, like a big chunk of you is a mom now. But like yeah, you're still you with your personality and with everything you like and what you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, finding balance, trying to find balance, to be present with her, enjoy this season of my life,
Yeah.
being postpartum, being a new mom, but also making plans for my future and how that involves
Yeah.
Olivia and my husband. Yeah.
Well, cool. It's fun to hear glimpses of it. Like everybody's story is different and it's fun to bring people on this podcast and I haven't had many new moms, so it's fun to hear your perspective. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, of course.
now, let's kind of dive in. You left a lot of great notes on your form, and I think you filled out this form forever ago, so I'm so excited we're finally coming to it and doing it. But let's just ask you flat out, what do you light up about?
Okay, I think it's what I wrote, and it's still true. But people, just humans,
Mm-hmm.
and human connection and relationship, and this worldwide web we have, not in reference to the internet, but this
Mm-hmm.
web of of people where like, oh, God's design of this universe is insanely intricate and incredible. How he knew that we needed each other. Like, I'm positive of that. He knew we needed each other, and there is some sort of formula that he's put in place where we would have all these like cause and effects with each other. Like, love I love following the spirit. I mean, the spirit speaks to me a lot of times in ways that allow me to connect with other people, because the Lord knows that that just brings me so much joy. So
Yeah.
I think about someone, I shoot them a text, and that causes them to do something for someone else and someone else and someone else. And just this
Mm-hmm.
connection, it just, oh, I just love it. I just love it. That's what lights me up. And we can go dive deeper
Yeah.
into it. Yeah.
I'm excited to hear about this because surprisingly, well, maybe it's not that surprising, but multiple people I bring on the podcast, this is their answer. Like, people need
Oh yeah.
people, and people love connection, and we love learning about other people. I think our day and age, like, it's crazy to notice in myself and in people around me, like, unintentionally, pride is sneaking in there where it's like we're just caring too much about ourselves in a roundabout way, but we're forgetting how it feels to reach outward and like have those connections that are no self-serving. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We can
Yes.
jump into that later, but that's been on my mind lately, like in my work relationships, in my family relationships, like channeling it outward instead of inward. Like, I'm connecting with people because that's my human nature to connect, not because I'm going to benefit from something, right? Like, not going into it wanting something. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
our true nature is that pure connection, right? Where it's like no,
No
no,
strings attached.
yeah, or no, like, not incentive, but like you're not doing it to get something out of it, like specifically. I don't know how to describe that, but
Yeah, no personal gain out of
yeah.
being or connecting with other people.
What do you
I
think?
agree.
Yeah, tell me more about like how you view that. Sorry, I just kind of stole that tangent and dragged it over here,
No,
but
so I am gonna pull this up. I If I could replace my interview with you with this other podcast interview from this other woman, that I would, because she speaks so much to what I believe in about this topic. And it's on the podcast Faith Matters. They interviewed a woman called Elizabeth Oldfield, and
cool.
she wrote a book, and she's a Christian theologian. She wrote a book called Fully Alive, and
Wow.
she talks about how connecting with other people, turning outward, helps us become fully alive, and fully alive in Christ's whole ministry, his gospel, his first and second commandment, love the Lord thy God, and then love thy neighbor, is all about people. There's nothing about yourself in there. And she talks about sin is, in a nutshell, when you are turned inward. Sin is thinking about yourself. Sin is only caring about yourself. It's doing things on your own terms. And the opposite of sin, repentance and forgiveness, is connecting and turning outward. So
And turning outward to God and to others. I love that.
Yeah. So I have found that I feel most fully alive, to use her terminology.
Yeah, I love that.
I feel fully alive, not shrunken, not selfish, not feeling like just icky. I mean, that's just, you get so caught up in yourself, and a lot of your life just turns so like mundane, and you're worried about fame and fortune, and just personal gain. So that is the opposite of feeling fully alive, according to her. And I agree. Being fully alive is you feel expansive, you feel light, you feel capable and able to do good in the world, and for other people. I feel that way when I am in service of other people, when I'm connecting,
Mm-hmm.
um,
No,
when I
totally.
yeah, interested in the lives. And it's not even just about service. It's not just about like, oh yeah, I volunteer at the cannery, or I volunteer at, the homeless shelter. It's not about putting in your hours. It's about it's about having that genuine conversation with your
Mm-hmm.
neighbor
Totally.
because you decided to stop and talk to him when you're on your walk, rather than
Trying to be in a hurry or finish or
you're
whatever.
hurry, go back inside, make your lunch.
Totally.
You know, so yeah, yeah. And I feel connected to both people. I feel grounded in nature and
Mm-hmm.
just like my life and my life's purpose. I feel connected with God.
Yeah,
Um, so I think that's what I'm striving for,
I
is
love
just
that.
continually feeling fully alive. And I have to practice repentance every day in order to feel that, and it's a
Mm.
joyful thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love this connection you're bringing. I've never thought about it like that. My mind has jumped to like the tiniest connections can be service and can help other people feel light and you feel their light. Like I was just at a conference for work this past weekend. I call it a conference. It was a big event called the Running Man. And it's interesting though because there was a lot of influencers there and they had their camera crews and they're filming their videos and like
Yeah.
sometimes you're like wow that's like so self-centered but at the same time they're building connections and they're sharing something they're passionate about with other people and so like majority of it's really good but like the community that this like event brought were people from all over ages of all over like there were grandmas and grandpas to like parents to like young single crazy kids and everyone just like came together and then there's this big race everyone does from like a 5K to a 50K and everyone just runs and talks to each other and like I met people from all over and they all had their own stories and their motives and meeting people and they like make best friends and they're there the next year with friends they met last year but it was so cool like even after that you're in a sauna or you're cold plunging and I went to go cold plunge by myself and I was like getting in and I was so cold and I was like freaking out. And this random girl just came to me and just started talking to me and like, okay, like let's deep breathe and let's do this and let's do this. I'm like, okay, take a picture with me. Like you're a new friend. Now we're like friends on Instagram. I'm like, you're the girl who helped me in the cold plunge. And like that little bit of connection was like a service to me. So then it's just fun to think about how can I be a service like that to other people around me in little ways. Like it's not some big service project, but it's noticing the ways you can focus on other people.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a really cool event. I
No,
want to go
I
next.
think you should join me next year. It was so fun.
Just to go. Okay, but it takes effort, right? Like that woman who came up to you and you're in the cold plunge,
Yeah.
like in the end, like you don't have to connect if you don't want to.
Right.
But you always feel so much better after you do.
And like you said, now it's a web. Like I can't even remember where she's from. I can look it up on her Instagram, but like now we're webbed of like some girl I met in Georgia and I'm in Utah or like all the other people I met. And like even from a work standpoint too, like we met connections that we're excited to build relationships with and like just
Yeah.
all in light of I mean it was like a health conference too and all these people who are just striving to help our world our earth be healthier and have people be healthier and avoid diseases and stuff so it's fun when there's like that commonality of like a desire to help people
Hmm.
but yeah why else do you love connection tell us more about your experiences
Oh, I just think people are so interesting. And maybe that's exactly what you're trying to do here with the podcast. People are just so interesting, and it's so easy to stay in your own bubble, and especially okay, for me and my community here in East Mill Creek, like a lot of people are born here, raised here, and then stay here forever. And
Yeah.
that's kind of my
It's a
intention too,
great
just because I
place.
love it. It's
Yeah.
super comfortable. I love the people. I love the location, whatever. Um, but it is limiting too. If you don't force yourself to expand your horizons and especially when you have the opportunities to interact with people who are different from you, who live more than 2 blocks away from you,
Right.
uh, you can stay pretty narrow-minded, I think, and that's dangerous in a world like we have now.
Yeah.
Um, so I think traveling, being a conscientious traveler, has been important to me.
Mhm.
Uh, Traveling not for the sake of just,
Going to see something? Well, I mean, yes, and
yes, and like it's important for me to give to the economy there and find like the locals if possible, find like the
mhm.
locals. And you don't need to like hire them for excursions, but at least like, I don't know, buy some fruit from their fruit stand and ask them their name and like find out a tiny bit of their story. Like
Yeah.
that is so fun to me.
Mhm.
Um
And it continues
and
to build that human web connection like you talked about.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Um
You served
yeah,
a
so I travel like that.
you served a mission, right? Remind me.
Yes, I did.
Where did you
I
serve?
served Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio.
I served more like the countryside around Columbus.
Cool. I bet it was beautiful. My coworker's family's from there and she went back and just was raving about how beautiful it was.
Yes, yeah. The Midwest has a lot of good. A lot of I've been wanting to go in the fall. I
Mhm.
mean, the fall is just
I bet.
incredible. Yes, I loved my mission a lot for the sake of the people.
Yeah, I was
Just
just gonna say, before that, did you feel like you were saying talking to the person at the fruit stand, like do you feel like you had always been like that, like growing up, like you always wanted to like connect with people?
oh, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't feel like I would coin myself as a shy kid. Um, well, I think I valued people, and it started in ways where it was mostly for a selfish reason, where like I wanted to fit in, I wanted to be the
Right.
cool girl. I was
Which
kind of a chameleon, and maybe that's just like middle school syndrome.
honestly, yeah, I feel like most people are go through that in some way or another. I mean, even growing up as an adult too, there's certain situations or things where you still want to fit in or whatever.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, and I was involved in a lot of different extracurricular activities. That's just like my perfectionism came out in my extracurriculars, where I just wanted to do everything and be good at everything. But because of
Mm.
that, I had a lot of different um, friend groups.
Yeah.
I had my soccer friends and my dance friends and my school friends and my church friends, and they were also different.
Mhm.
I mean, and that complicated things just with my own self-worth and self finding my identity. And my therapist has helped me through that. But
Mhm.
on the flip side, the good thing about that was that I got to
Connect.
interact with a lot of
A lot of people.
different kind of people, and
Yeah.
that's probably where my love for connecting with other people came from.
Yeah.
It's just the exposure I had early on in my childhood to
Mhm.
different kinds of people who have different passions and
Yeah.
talents. Yeah.
And your intent now is just driven by your passion to share light, right? And just you know that the more connections you build, the more you and others can benefit from just connection in general.
Yes. I know for a fact that when I'm on the receiving end of someone trying to make a genuine connection with me, like it just like I said, it just lights me up. I just
Yeah.
feel on top of the world.
Yeah, me
So
too.
I want
Yeah.
to do that for other people.
Yeah.
And also, it's a surefire way for me to connect with God.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm in pursuit of God and a relationship with Him, I think I'll always be
Have
trying
that
to
love.
connect and,
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, be with other people.
I love that. In the forum, you also mentioned just like seasons of life. Like right now, you're a new mom, and you say like you can connect with your neighbors and your family and your friends. And I love that you said you're focusing on strengthening your home and your heart through the gospel and study and church participation. You said gardening, journaling, playing, decluttering and cleaning, DIY projects, and then you kind of went into a little bit depth on gardening a little bit.
Uh
But
huh.
I have a question for you with that in mind. What's the balance of focusing on yourself in those areas of things you love to do and like you said therapy, like there's so much of working on ourselves that help us
Hmm.
be better connecting with other people. How do you find that balance? Cuz sometimes it's like, oh, if I'm focusing too much on myself, then I'm not focusing on other people. Yeah, I can't focus on other people unless I've built myself up. So, what do you think about
Right.
that?
Oh, that is a mental battle I face every day. Um, but I I've come to be at peace with um, the fact that I know that there are times and seasons of life.
Yeah.
Um, some have more definite, like definitive boundaries and like bookends than others. Like for me, having a child was for sure like, okay, this is a
For
new season of
sure.
my life.
Season. Oh yeah.
And and others are just kind of like a a gradual transition. Um, so I just want to embrace the season that I'm in, and I say all these things like it's super easy, but it's not.
It's not. And
Like I
no
said,
matter
like
what
I'm
season you're
here.
in.
I've found myself like nursing my daughter, like being so like invested in her physically, but then my mind is thinking about, the next side hustle I can start.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's this tug, push and pull
Yeah.
and the trying to find balance. But maybe it isn't always just, equally balanced. Maybe
Yeah.
it is
There's some give
more of
and
a
take.
scale.
Yeah. Like you're keeping a little child alive. Like I can barely keep my basil plant alive. Like it's hard to like devote you have to devote like so much of that
Yeah.
to this chapter. And that's like what it's meant to be at this point, and like things will get easier and better and like not easier and better because every chapter you have to find that easy and better like in the hard circumstances sometime. Like sometimes for me and my like single friends who aren't married yet, when all our other friends are married and having kids, it's like, okay, well, what are we enjoying now in this stage? Instead of thinking about just wanting to get somewhere. Or
Yeah.
or people who are maybe with 4 kids saying, "Oh, it'd be nice to just have a break," like
Yeah. Yeah.
every like you could find good and bad in every chapter. And I was listening to the Joy in it's from Come Follow Me this week. Joy in Strength in Our Trials by President Nelson from like 2016. Um, Mixed with Elder Gong's talk from this past conference about just all things work out for our good. Like the boy
Hmm.
gets a horse and then he falls off, like how fortunate, and then he falls off the horse and breaks his leg and they're like, oh, how unfortunate. Then the army comes but he can't be drafted because he's hurt and they're like, wow, how fortunate. And he's like, we'll see. Like
Hmm.
just having that mentality of like when something happens in our lives or when we do something, like whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, it's for our good.
Mm. Okay, that reminds me of a children's book that my aunt just read to all of her grandkids and my
Mhm.
daughter at our family dinner last night. Every
Yay.
page. So one page it starts with uh fortunately so in preference it's sort of like a when you give a mouse a cookie thing.
Yeah, I
It
love
just
that. Yeah.
like a story, one thing leads to the next. So one page is like fortunately this happened, yada yada yada. It's like they fortunately he climbed to the top of the mountain and then turned the page. Unfortunately, the top of the mountain was filled with
Snakes or
I don't know,
something.
like snakes, whatever. And then flip over. Fortunately, he had a I don't know, you know what I mean? Like fortunately, unfortunately, fortunately, and it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. It's a dance.
Yeah.
But it's fun to lean into it when you
Right?
have it. Like,
Fun. No, no, it is. But you have to really like put in that work of like getting there mentally, like when you're in the hard situations, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, like I've been doing a lot of baking,
Let's go.
but
Baking
I've
era.
I've found myself giving my baked things away to other
I
people,
love it.
which is really fun. And like visiting my friend who just had a baby, or like
Mhm.
and like making her meals, or like going to the park with another mom. Like I could
Connecting.
never do that. I could never do that before.
Mhm.
And my in my previous world, I would think that that's like a waste of time. But now I'm like,
That's
who
like what time
cares?
is
Like,
for.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is so great.
Well, and with our conversation we just had too, like when we look at the fortunate, unfortunate of other people's lives and like really try to understand like what they might be going through and just having conversations about life and like what are you learning lately or how are you feeling about life in general? Like finding ways to like bring in those deep conversations. That's a service to just humanity, right? That's a service to you and to them in that connection because we need support when we have the unfortunate pages, and support when we have the fortunate pages. Like there's some like we were talking about this at work today, like my coworker made an incredible video from a retreat and like got a standing ovation and like he gets so uncomfortable but we're like that probably felt really good though, like you did incredible work and it was just like validated or like people appreciated it and it connected people. And
Yeah.
so I'm just like, okay, like what are little ways I can do that? I think the biggest thing for me, like in this mindset, is I have to just like X out comparison entirely. Because then that allows me to be in a place of like that true connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. True connection without uh well, intent for gain for
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
or even just like feeling embarrassed or shameful is in a way also just turning in on yourself too.
I know it's hard. It's hard to think about that. And I've been trying to overcome like I love external validation. Like I just need people to tell me I'm doing a good job, which in some extents like that is a need people have, but also at the same time it's like I shouldn't need anyone else's approval but God's. And like having to internalize that, like I think when I like finally can keep improving that feeling I have in my connection with God, then I'll be that much better connecting with other people. Kind of like what you said at the beginning, like your motive and intent is your love of God and your love of people. It's just what our goal is in life.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. And in the end, like God's got us, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
I I find myself an opportunist a lot of times.
Mhm.
And maybe that's just like the business entrepreneur like inclination I have, where I'm like, oh, like we're at an event, like we've got to go talk to that person because this connection
You're a
could
networker.
really put us ahead, right? Like they could help us here,
Mhm.
here, and sometimes I feel like I'm pretty good at seeing the opportunity to like take advantage of a situation or a person to get ahead. But again, like if that doesn't happen, if the opportunity that you're hoping for isn't like reached, like in the end, God's got us and
Yeah.
everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna get where you need to get, and as long as you just keep doing good. And I mean, you look at Christ, like he spent most of his time with people who, you know, were
People rejected or didn't spend time with. Yeah.
yeah, the people that the Son of God, like in all of his glory, maybe wouldn't be expected to be spending time with. So um he's got us. We're fine.
I love that. Well, I have one final question, and then I want to hear just like an uplifting takeaway from this conversation, as well as just like what you want someone listening to get like to maybe focus on. So the question is, how do you feel like in your marriage you think about what you can give versus what you can get, as well as at the same time expressing your needs? I feel like a lot of my people who listen to this podcast love just relationship building, especially like romantically, like whether it's a dating relationship or in a marriage. So if it's not too personal, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Okay, if I understand correctly, what what is it we I can give? Will you say that again?
Yeah. So basically, what has just helped? I mean, you've been married for 7 years or 8 years. And what has
Yeah.
helped your marriage, like, is I know a big part of marriage is that selfless service, right? Like, everyone has, not everyone, but majority of people I talk to, it's like you have to give of yourself. You have to sacrifice for your spouse. And obviously, when you have a child too, you're just sacrificing for your children. But I've just, I mean, my stage of life, my chapter, right, is preparing for marriage. And it's like, okay, like, instead of being like, what can I get? It's what can I give? And I've just am curious in your experience how you've seen that and what has helped you guys.
Okay. Thank you. Um we genuinely love spending time together. Um it's never and this wasn't anything that we like laid a ground rule for
Mm-hmm.
and at the beginning of our marriage. It's just kind of happened naturally because we're like always together. We prefer to be together rather than apart. So whenever we talk about our plans or when we're making commitments and we're like separate, a lot of times we're in text threads with different family members or friends, and
Right.
it's always we are available or we aren't, and
Mm-hmm.
or like no, I can't do this because Spencer is going here and I want to go with it. Like
Hmm.
um
You just prioritize each other.
are just prioritizing being together, and it's not because it's an expectation of
Mm-hmm.
each other, but it's because we have developed a kind of relationship where we would prefer to
Being together.
be together rather than off doing our own things. And
Wow. That's really
there's
cool.
the one on like the alone time definitely has its place,
Mm-hmm.
but majority of the time we have found that like our best selves are when we're together, and therefore that's helped our like strengthen our relationship and strengthen our family, and I think make our home a
I
more
love that.
loving environment for our daughter.
Oh, that's awesome. That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Hmm.
Well, to wrap up the episode, is there anything just like on your mind that you think people should know?
Um,
Kind of in light of our main conversation.
yeah, yeah. Um, this has kind of been on my mind a while, that people are becoming really divisive, and I know that's just kind of what happens is the world progresses.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
uh, I don't think like the end of times is going to be as scary and 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 divisive as it's looking. But I think we do have a responsibility and obligation to try and um, create a safety net or a web or tethers to people,
Yeah.
whatever sort of metaphor you want to use, to keep our society intact and
Mhm.
a livable, like, happy place to
Yeah.
be.
And that's through these
Um,
connections.
and it's through the connections.
I mean, I
So
you say
keep at
web.
it.
Yeah, you say web and I think of spider webs and they're just so sticky and like sometimes they're so beautiful how they're strung together and they hold together and it has a force of togetherness, right? Like you can do more together than you can on your own.
Yeah.
And
And I
even
think that is going to be what keeps our world like a sane,
yeah,
happy, livable place, no matter no matter the destruction, no matter the
mhm.
divisiveness, no matter
Right.
what happens. Like, at least we'll have our people.
Right. Well, and I've noticed too, like when there's people that have different values or they think very differently than me, when I can find little ways to connect with them, like find that one little string of commonality, it helps us just be okay with everything else being so different.
Yeah, yeah,
And
true.
just there's so much power in that.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that. Amy, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And with that, we will talk to you next week. See you later.
Thanks, Natalie.